Welcome, everybody. How are you doing this evening? We are here for another adventure in Ask Steve, the questions and answers session, where I try to help you with life's toughest questions. Here with me tonight is the wonderful Long Jane Silver. How are you doing tonight, Jane?
I'm doing really well, Steve.
Awesome. Are you ready for some amazing questions and answers?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. All right, let's start us off tonight. What do we get up first?
We've got one from Stoic Steve. He writes, "How can I be more accepting of people that frustrate me without letting them walk all over me? I feel like letting go of that anger is the right thing to do, but I want to ensure that I'm still being a force for good and standing up for people."
That is a hard one, Stoic Steve. What you're really asking there is two different questions. You're asking, how do you forget and forgive? How do you mesh with other people who may not have the same idealistic views as you? And you're also asking how you can make yourself feel like you're making a difference for your world. So really, let's take this apart in two different sections. Number one, how do you accept people who are frustrating you or making you upset? That's a matter of practice. That's something that you and I may say to each other, oh, you just practice it and you'll get better at it. But the truth of the matter is, it depends on the level of frustration. If it's somebody who has a different political view than you, if it's somebody who has a different ideological view than you, it's going to take some work. You're going to have to come to a place where you agree to disagree. It's going to come to a place where you have to decide that that viewpoint being introduced to your world, whether you view that as a piece of knowledge or whether you view that as seeing a difference of opinion, that's something that you can add to your knowledge bank. Maybe it's not something you agree with. Maybe it's something that you vehemently stand against. It's going to entirely depend on how you view the world. What I try to say is, if the point of view being introduced to me is something that I don't agree with, but is not harming other people in an obvious way, it's not saying, go out and steal a bunch of piggy banks and that's perfectly fine. That would obviously be wrong. There's no two ways about it, don't steal. Then that's something that can frustrate you, and you can say, no, I don't even want to hear this, get away from me. But if it's something that's just not in your realm, not something you necessarily agree with, like whether or not the color purple is cool, then take their point of view, put it in your knowledge bank, and then consider it another piece of knowledge that you now hold to form your opinions and shape your world. That's how you take people's frustration of what they give you and you turn it into power for yourself. Second part of the question is, what do you do to ensure that you're being a force for good? That is an entirely separate question. If you're talking about how do you be an advocate for something that you believe in, how do you stand up on Twitter, Facebook, to your friends, to your family, to strangers, for something that you believe in, for a cause? In that case, you need to have conviction. You need to believe what it is that you're trying to advocate for. You're not going to be able to jump in and advocate for trans rights or gay rights or disability rights if you don't truly believe them in your heart. If you believe them, then being able to stand up for others is going to come naturally. You're going to feel that urge to support those people that may either not be there to fight for themselves, or maybe you want to be an ally. That's going to be your time to be the force for good. The only part about that is just to remember to amplify the voices of those people who you're trying to stand up for more than put your own voice into it. And when you do need to put your own voice into it, make sure that you're aligning your viewpoints with the viewpoints of the people you're trying to stand up for. Unless you happen to be a member of that community as well. In that case, you have every right to speak for yourself, and you don't always have to speak for others. A good example from this is my own advocacy. Obviously, I advocate for people with disabilities, for their rights in video games, for their rights in general. I can speak from my own personal experience, my own meandering, wandering through the world. I can talk to you about my experience. If you listen to when I talk about disability in interviews and on television or in newspapers, you'll notice that my point of view switches. Sometimes I'm talking from my point of view, sometimes I talk in a broad spectrum. The difference comes down to how much I believe in what I'm saying. If I tell you, well, the only way that you should refer to people are disabled people, not people with disabilities. I'm talking to you from my perspective. I believe that we should say disabled people. That is my belief. However, there's a large faction of the disability community that believes you should say person with disabilities. So therefore, I can't say that from the entire world. I can only say that from my own perspective. It's very important that whenever you speak up for others and you try to be a voice for good, that you take the time to learn the communities and you learn who it is you're standing up for. Good luck out there, Stoic Steve. We believe in you.
The next question is from Constantine. They ask, sometimes I feel like a bad person. I'm trying really hard not to be a bad person, but sometimes I don't feel like I'm as good as I should be. How do I make myself always be a good person?
How do I always make myself be a good person? What do we feel is a good person? What do you feel is somebody who is doing the right thing, or somebody who is right, somebody who has gone out of their way to do good for the world? That's difficult, right? Every one of us would like to be good on some level, but here's the truth about being a good person. All of us are sinners, and all of us are saints. We are both simultaneously. You can do good things, you can do bad things. I have done horrible things. I have gone out and made people cry. I have said bad words against my friends. I have acted unkindly towards strangers. But does that make me a bad person? No. My current actions are what makes me who I am. You have done the same thing. You have had times where you may have told a lie, or you may have robbed somebody of a couple of dollars in a tip, or you may have cheated your brother, sister, friend in a board game. There are times where you will be both a good and a bad person. That's not even to mention the times where you may do a bad thing for the right reason. There is no such thing as a truly good person. We are all gray. We are all the middle. None of us are good or bad, and you should not attempt to be a good person. You should attempt to be a better person than you were yesterday. You should attempt to be more good than bad. If, at the end of the day, you can say to yourself, I have done all I could, I have done as much good today as I possibly can, and there were a few times where I went astray, then you can go to sleep knowing that you did the best you were able to do. Unfortunately, there is no true shining hero with their polished armor who never tells a lie, never tells a swear word, never says anything wrong, because that kind of person does not exist. True heroes are the ones you see on TV that are called anti-heroes. They're the ones who choose the 4 or 5 minutes throughout their life that are the most important moments to act in an appropriate way, to act as the hero for the moment. They're the ones that know when to stand up because their heart tells them to, and they follow that inner voice. That voice inside of you that says, now is the moment when I have to do good. I have to help my fellow human being. And if you are able to answer the call when your gut, when your spirit, whatever you want to call it, tells you is the appropriate moment to do good, then you're a good person. If you choose to do bad, if you choose specifically to be always selfish, to always put yourself first, and to never do for others, then you're more on one side of the scale than the other, and you know what side you're on. There's no one in this world who does things like that, who doesn't know what they're doing. You know, at the end of the day, you could be a better person, and it's up to you. You're the only one who has that power. Listening to me, listening to any other guru, listening to anyone who's close to you isn't going to matter or make a lick of difference. At the end of the day, you're the only one who can decide if you are a good person. Good luck out there, Constantine. Hey you, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I don't claim to have all the answers in life, but I'm going to do my best to give you solid advice that can help you along the way. If something in this video resonated with you, taught you a lesson, or maybe gave you a perspective you hadn't thought of before, please leave it in the comments below, click the like button, and share it with your friends and family. You just never know who might need to hear the same thing you just did.